me tell you something most people will never say out loud. You're not waiting for the right moment. You're avoiding the responsibility to rise. Deep down, you know it. You've got this fire inside you, potential, strength, ambition, but something's holding you back. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's doubt. Maybe it's that quiet voice in your head whispering, "You're not ready yet." But what if that voice is wrong? What if the gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't your ability, it's your mindset? The Stoics understood this. They didn't wait for the perfect conditions. They created strength by how they responded, not by what they wished for. And in today's video, we're going to explore the mindset that separates the average from the elite. Not ego, not talent, but presence, power, and purpose. We're going to dive into what it really means to act like you're the best. Not to impress others, but to honor the version of you that refuses to live small. This isn't a performance. This is a decision. And the moment you make it, your life will never be the same. So take a deep breath, and let's begin. Point 1. The war between now and next. There's a quiet war happening inside you, not once in a while, but every single day. It's not a war anyone else can see. No banners, no battlegrounds, no noise, just choices. Silent, constant, and defining. On one side is the version of you that plays it safe, the one that hits snooze, doubts its own power, and settles for good enough. It's not evil, it's just familiar. It tells you things like, stay where it's comfortable. Now's not the time. You're not ready yet. And then there's the other version, the one that knows you were built for more. The one that doesn't need the perfect plan to take the first step. The one that refuses to die with potential still buried inside. That version doesn't yell. It doesn't beg. It waits for you to wake up and claim it. Marcus Aurelius wrestled with this war too. He didn't hide it. He wrote about it, page after page in Meditations, reminding himself to rise above excuses, to act with discipline, and to serve the world with purpose. He knew the hardest enemy is not out there, it's within. And that's what you must face today. Not your critics, not your obstacles, your lower self, the weaker voice inside that wants you average. Number distracted, small. But here's the truth the Stoics lived by. You do not need to feel ready to move. You only need to decide that enough is enough. This is where it starts, right now, not when the fear goes away, not when things are perfect. Now you win this war by acting, not by waiting. You silence the weaker voice by showing up with strength, especially when it's inconvenient. Because if you don't choose to lead your life, the lesser version of you will. And that version, it will chain you to a life you never wanted, filled with regret, what-ifs, and untapped greatness. So choose wisely. Choose growth. Choose action. Choose the self that refuses to shrink. That's how the war is won, one decision at a time. Point 2. You don't have to be the best. To act like the best. One of the biggest lies you've ever been told is that confidence is something you earn after you succeed. That only once you've proven yourself, once you've got the job, the money, the praise, only then do you get to feel worthy. But Stoicism flips that script completely. You don't act confident because you've made it. You make it because you act with confidence. That's the shift. You don't need to be the best right now. You just need to carry yourself like someone who's on the way, someone who takes themselves seriously, someone who moves like a person with purpose. Epictetus, born into slavery, had no power, no wealth, no social status. But he understood something most people never do. It's not the events themselves that disturb us, but how we think about them. In other words, the story you tell yourself matters more than the story the world is telling about you. You might say, but I'm not good enough yet. And I'll ask, according to who? Who told you that confidence requires permission? The The world doesn't owe you a crown before you carry yourself like royalty. You decide your worth, not your job title, not your past, not your circumstances. When you walk into a room, speak with someone important, chase a big goal, don't shrink. Don't wait to feel like the best. Act like the best would act. Speak how they would speak. Train how they would train. Lead how they would lead. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. You're not faking it. You're shaping it. Confidence isn't pretending. It's preparing. It's choosing to show up with the mindset that says, I may not be perfect, but I'm prepared. I may not know everything, but I belong here. This mindset is power. And when you start moving like the best version of you, something incredible happens. People feel it. You feel it. And that version of you, it starts becoming real. Point 3. Excellence isn't perfection. It's consistency. Here's a mistake too many people make. They think being the best means never messing up. They think excellence is about flawlessness, a perfect record, a spotless path, no failure, no mistakes. But that's not what greatness looks like. Excellence in the Stoic tradition isn't about being better than others. It's about being better than who you were yesterday. It's not perfection. It's progress. Marcus Aurelius never claimed to be perfect. In fact, his meditations are filled with self-reminders to stay calm, to forgive quickly, to stay focused, to not be dragged down by ego or emotion. Why? Because even an emperor had to work at it every single day. He understood that mastery is a process, a path, a practice. Seneca said it best, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. That means no matter how far you go, you never arrive. You keep climbing. So when we say, act as if you're the best, we don't mean act like you have it all figured out. We mean act like someone who holds themselves to a higher standard every single day, even when no one's watching, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the rewards aren't immediate. You want to grow? Then raise your standards, not to impress anyone, but to honor your own potential. Ask yourself, how would the best version of me approach this situation? How would they speak to others? How would they treat their health? How would they manage their time, their money, their energy? Because acting like the best isn't about being rigid. It's about being intentional. It's about showing up consistently, not perfectly. Making small decisions that add up. Stacking discipline. Practicing virtue. Over time, those small actions turn into habits. Those habits build identity, and that identity becomes your life. This is the Stoic way. You don't chase perfection. You build character. And character is what makes the difference when life gets hard, when distractions come, when setbacks hit, when others quit. So stop aiming to get it right all the time. Aim to get it done with discipline, with intention, and with heart. That's what excellence truly looks like. Point 4. Confidence is built, not given. Let's be honest, we all want to feel confident, to walk into situations with certainty, clarity, and power. But most people sit around waiting for confidence to show up like it's a gift someone else is supposed to hand them. It doesn't work that way. Confidence isn't given. It's not something you earn after success. It's something you build, step by step, decision by decision. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was the ability to move forward in spite of fear. You don't need to feel bold to take bold action. You need to act and let the courage catch up. Epictetus taught that our power lies in our ability to choose how we respond, not how we feel in the moment, because emotions fluctuate. Confidence isn't about feeling amazing all the time. It's about making confident choices when your mind is full of doubt. Think about a job interview. You can walk in thinking, I hope they like me, and shrink. Or you can walk in with the mindset, I know what I bring to the table. Let me show you. Even if your hands are shaking, even if you're nervous. That's acting as if you're the best, not pretending, but but choosing power over paralysis. And the more you practice it, the easier it becomes, because confidence is a skill, a muscle, a habit. The Stoics believed in training the mind just as a warrior trains the body. Every time you step into discomfort, every time you speak up, stand tall, take action when it's easier to hide, you're building strength. And one day, you'll look back and realize what once felt like an act is now just who you are. That's the power of consistent action, not waiting for self-belief, but becoming someone who acts with belief, even before the results show up. Confidence doesn't come first, action does, and from that action, belief is born. Point 5. Humility is the foundation of greatness. When people hear "act like you're the best," some immediately assume it means arrogance, like you're supposed to walk around thinking you're better than everyone else. But that's not what we're talking about. This isn't about ego. It's about self-respect. It's about operating at your highest level, not to dominate others, but to honor your own potential. Because real greatness doesn't boast. It doesn't need to. True confidence is quiet. It's rooted in humility, in the understanding that no matter how far you've come, there's always more to learn, more to refine, more room to grow. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. He had absolute power. And yet, he wrote daily reminders to himself to stay grounded, to stay patient, to serve others with dignity. He knew, the higher you rise, the more dangerous it is to let pride sneak in. He reminded himself, do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about others. Instead, be intent on doing what nature demands of you. That's humility, not shrinking, not self-doubt, but a laser focus on self-mastery. When you act like the best version of yourself, you're not claiming to be above others. You're accepting the responsibility to be better than the excuses you've made before. And the more you grow, the more you realize the people who are truly great are often the most humble, because they're not driven by comparison, they're driven by character. So yes, raise your standards, walk with conviction, but keep your head low enough to keep learning, because the moment you believe there's nothing left to improve is the moment you stop growing. The Stoics believed that pride weakens, but humility sharpens. So act like you're the best, but do it with discipline, grace, and gratitude. Because humility isn't thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself accurately. A powerful work in progress. Point 6. Use your weaknesses as fuel. There's a hard truth that separates those who grow from those who stay stuck. Everyone has weaknesses, but only a few are willing to face them head-on. Most people hide from their flaws. They cover them up with distractions, fake confidence, or blame. But the Stoics, they took a different path. They believed your weaknesses aren't your downfall. They're your doorway to becoming something greater. Marcus Aurelius didn't ignore his shortcomings. He studied them. He confronted his anger, his ego, his impulses, and he wrote about them openly. Why? Because progress begins where avoidance ends. Seneca taught that obstacles, even personal flaws, are not enemies. They are the raw material from which we carve virtue. So what does this mean for you? It means when you act like the best, you don't pretend your flaws don't exist. You own them. You say, this is where I struggle, and this is where I'll improve. That's courage. That's strength. That's self-respect. Because when you acknowledge your weaknesses, they lose their power to control you. Think about a cracked foundation in a building. Ignoring it doesn't make it go away, but examining it, reinforcing it, rebuilding it, that's how you create something that lasts. The Stoic path is not about avoiding pain. It's about using it, turning failure into wisdom, turning insecurity into strength, turning every setback into a training ground. So stop hiding from your flaws. Start sharpening yourself through them. Because when you confront your weak points with honesty and discipline, you transform them into your greatest tools for growth. And that's exactly what the best do. They don't run from their shadows. They bring them into the light and rise above them. Point 7. Your standards shape your reality. Here's something most people never realize. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your standards. Your life right now, your habits, your mindset, your relationships, your body, your energy, they are all reflections of what you accept as normal. Not what you hope for, not what you dream about, but what you allow, tolerate, and practice daily. And that's where acting like the best changes everything. Because when you take on that mindset, you naturally raise your standards. You no longer settle for distractions disguised as entertainment. You no longer speak in ways that drain your power. You no longer move through life with no direction. You ask, if I were operating at my highest level, how would I behave? What would I no longer accept from myself? And that question shifts everything. The Stoics weren't casual about life. They were precise, intentional, and ruthless about their principles. Epictetus told his students, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. That's the formula. Decide who you are, then build the standards that match that identity. If you were the best version of yourself, how would you spend your mornings? How would you train your body? How would you speak to others and to yourself? How would you treat your time, your word, your energy? Most people live reactively, but when you raise your standards, you start living proactively. You shape your world instead of being shaped by it. This is how lasting change begins, not with motivation, but with identity. When you act like the best, you don't need constant reminders. Your standards carry you. They remind you that every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. So raise them, sharpen them, live by them. Because the world doesn't rise to meet your ambition. It responds to your expectations of yourself. Point 8. Daily action is the engine of mastery. Most people think transformation happens in big, dramatic moments. A breakthrough, a win, a life-changing decision. But the Stoics saw things differently. They knew real growth doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in quiet repetition, in what you do every single day. You don't become strong by lifting a heavy weight once. You become strong by lifting consistently, even on the days you don't feel like it. You don't become wise by reading one quote. You become wise by reflecting, applying, refining, over and over again. Marcus Aurelius didn't just wake up powerful and virtuous. He trained for it. He journaled daily. He questioned himself daily. He reminded himself daily of what mattered and what didn't. That's mastery, and it's built through daily action. Ask yourself, what do I do every morning when I wake up? What habits do I repeat without thinking? Are those actions pulling me closer to my potential or further from it? When you act like the best, you treat every day like a training ground. Because you understand, excellence is not a mood, it's a method. One decision at a time, one workout at a time, one conversation at a time, one choice to stay focused instead of distracted. That's how you build a life that commands respect, not just from others, but from yourself. Seneca said, excellence is not an act, but a habit. We become what we repeatedly do. So let's be clear. You don't need to wait for motivation. You don't need a perfect plan. You need a simple question. What would the best version of me do right now? And then, do it. That action, no matter how small, is a declaration. It says, I'm not just talking about change, I'm living it. And over time, those actions compound. They become identity, and that identity becomes legacy. Point 9. Your growth inspires others to rise. Here's something powerful most people never consider. When you level up, you give others permission to do the same. Stoicism teaches self-mastery, but it also teaches something deeper, responsibility to the whole. The Stoics believed in sympathia, the interconnectedness of all people, that your actions ripple outward, that your strength isn't just for you, it's for everyone around you. When you act like the best version of yourself, something shifts. You don't just change your own world, you change the atmosphere of every room you walk into. Think about it. You've met people who carry a certain energy. Not loud, not arrogant, but steady, grounded, present, focused. They don't need to tell you they're disciplined. You feel it in the way they speak, the way they move, the way they listen. That's leadership. And when you carry yourself with that kind of intention, you raise the standard for others too. In your relationships, in your workplace, in your circle of influence. People notice when you operate differently, and over time they start asking, what are they doing differently? How are they staying so calm? Why does their presence feel so solid? You don't have to preach. You just have to live the example. That's what the Stoics did. Marcus Aurelius didn't need to yell to lead. He led by virtue, by consistency, by doing the right thing even when no one was watching. When you live this way, you light a path for others who are still lost in noise. You become proof that self-discipline is possible, that self-respect is possible, that growth is possible, that greatness can be chosen. So when you choose to act like the best, you're not just changing your life, you're raising the bar for everyone who crosses your path. And that's one of the greatest acts of service there is. Point 10. Failure is part of the path, not the end of it. Let's get one thing straight. You will fail. You will mess up. You will fall short. You will have days where nothing clicks, where doubt creeps in, where everything feels heavier than it should. And that's okay, because failure isn't a signal to quit. It's a sign you're in the game. The Stoics didn't fear failure. They expected it. They welcomed it, because they knew it was life's way of sharpening the blade. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, what blocks you builds you. When you act like the best, you don't avoid setbacks. You face them like a craftsman faces a flawed piece of marble. You chip away, you adjust, you refine, you use every mistake as raw material. Seneca said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." That means when you fall, and you will, you don't collapse. You recalibrate. You ask, what did this teach me? You get back up with more wisdom, more grit, more clarity. Most people take failure personally. They see it as a reflection of their worth, but not you, not anymore. You see it as training, because when you act like the best, you don't expect a perfect journey. You expect a relentless one. And your mindset becomes this: I will stumble, but I will not stop. That resilience, that refusal to give up, is the core of Stoic strength. So let failure shape you. Let it teach you. Let it forge you. Because the path to becoming your best self isn't clean. It's chaotic, uncertain, and full of friction. But it's yours, and you're walking it stronger every day. Choose to live it every single day. So let me ask you now, what if you stopped waiting? What if you stopped shrinking? What if, starting today, you chose to carry yourself like the person you know you're capable of becoming? Not someday, not when it's easier, not when you feel ready, but now. This is the Stoic path. Not perfection, not performance, but presence. Presence in how you show up. Presence in how you respond to life. Presence in how you walk, with purpose, with principle, with power. Because when you act like the best version of yourself, you are no longer reacting to life. You are leading it. And the world starts to notice. Not because you told them to, but because they feel your discipline, your clarity, your calm. And that's the gift. That's the result of aligning your daily actions with your deepest values. This isn't about pretending to be someone else. It's about stripping away everything that's holding you back. Fear, excuses, hesitation, and letting your real strength lead. You don't need permission to be great. You need intention and action. So wake up tomorrow and act like it's already within you. Because it is. You're not here to live a life of mediocrity. You're here to master yourself, to elevate others, to build something that lasts, not just in results, but in character. That begins with one mindset. Act like you're already the best, and then prove it to yourself, one action at a time. Stay grounded, stay sharp, stay relentless, and I'll see you at the top.